I've been a big fan of the Ford Maverick since it launched a few years ago, mostly because it's pretty perfectly sized, plus it has a more interesting interior than most other vehicles out there. Now the hybrid powertrain you can get, that's a nice touch too, although the fact it couldn't be combined with all-wheel drive has been a bit of a hang-up, not just for me, but for plenty of prospective owners out there, especially in a country like Canada where extra traction is all the rage. Skip ahead to this year, and Ford has finally righted that wrong as part of the Maverick's mid-cycle update, and the best part is, it barely burns more gas than before. For more expert car reviews, don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that. Okay, just to be clear, you can still get a front-wheel drive Maverick Hybrid if you would rather go that route, but for an extra $2,500 with either the base XL or this XLT version I'm driving, or standard with the Lariat, you can now get a mechanical linkage to what's going on under the hood, and that includes a gas-electric powertrain. There's also a 1.1 kilowatt-hour battery pack that's kind of under the passenger side of the cabin. That is feeding and fed by an electric motor that's sandwiched between the engine and the transmission. It's pretty much the same setup that you can get with the Ford Escape Hybrid. The biggest difference is the electric motor. But more importantly, this is a different hybrid setup than you get with Toyota, because Toyota gives you a separate electric motor in the back that powers the rear wheels. This is a more conventional mechanical connection. Important distinction, there are no drive modes here. There's no way to make this thing more efficient. There's no way to lock in that extra traction. It's entirely automatic, and it's gonna shuffle the torque around to where it's best used. I guess that's sort of disappointing. I do wish there were some different drive settings, because this thing doesn't have anything going for it other than just putting it in drive and off you go. Now the gas engine, it's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder that runs on the Atkinson cycle, and that means it isn't especially powerful, but it is very efficient. It combines with the electric part of the powertrain to make 191 horsepower, which might not seem like a lot, but trust me, it is more than enough. And the biggest perk to this powertrain really is the fact that it has that electric torque, so when you do need to take off in a hurry, it feels more than strong enough. It makes the turbocharged version an afterthought. It does get very noisy because that transmission is of the continuously variable variety, so it does want to kind of wind out endlessly, unlike a conventional geared transmission. But really, it is not that problematic, especially if you're cruising around town. It's very efficient. Now officially this thing's rated for 6.3 liters per 100 kilometers combined, which is barely worse than the front wheel drive version. That's good for 6.2. But I've been doing way better than that this week, including a city run where I averaged 4.1 liters per 100 kilometers. That was my indicated average after about 50 kilometers of driving in town. City streets, where the fastest I was doing was about 60 kilometers an hour. And even now, after a few hundred more kilometers, I'm burning 5.6 liters per 100 kilometers, and that includes lots of highway driving, triple-digit speeds, more time around town. I am so impressed with this powertrain, and the fact that it has that all-wheel drive, that extra traction that I know so many people out there love, well, that is just an added bonus. Now, of course, having any weight in the bed or a trailer hooked up to the back is going to make that efficiency worse. But the point is, when you're cruising around by yourself, or maybe with one or two other people with you, which is very common for pickup trucks, including full-size ones, well, this thing is just so efficient. That really is the best use case for it. The Maverick's bed, not very big at 4.5 feet, but more importantly, it can haul 1,500 pounds worth of stuff. Plus you can get the 4K tow package with the hybrid powertrain this year, and that means it can pull 4,000 pounds. Now, as you can tell from me standing next to it, this isn't a very big truck, but it's more spacious than you might expect. A good amount of headroom inside, and even the legroom in the back, not too bad considering the overall footprint here. It means you can actually comfortably move 4 or even 5 people with the Maverick. It's not just a glorified 2-seater. Now, in terms of the styling, pretty inoffensive overall. It's got that classic unibody look for a truck. It means the bed and the cab are all one piece. Kind of quirky, but I don't mind it too much. Something I do mind, at least compared to the pre-facelift version, the front end. I don't love these kind of fang-like headlights, but otherwise, this is a plain and practical design in the best ways possible. Now, I have to say, I like the mix of materials in here, both the way they look and feel. I really like this kind of parametric pattern that you get on the dash, as well as the doors, those exposed bolt heads, all kinds of cool touches. I gotta say, I also like this blue, especially the mix with the lighter color, but it doesn't go with everything. Even this Velocity blue paint of this tester, it clashes just a little bit. It's even worse with green or red, and I don't love that. I do wish there was something a little simpler for people to choose from, because that part does make it at least a little less appealing. But this is a huge appeal. This 13.2-inch touchscreen, it's bigger, better, and brighter than before. The interface is very easy to use, but my biggest complaint with it, no more physical climate controls. They've all been integrated within this touchscreen, and the biggest issue is there's no way to train yourself in your muscle memory to get used to them. Because if you have buttons or dials for that stuff, well, after a while, you can just kind of reach down and, I don't know that this button is the one that's gonna adjust the fan speed, or you can turn the dial and know that that's gonna change the temperature. Here, you really have to look and see and make deliberate inputs, because it's just this little bar down here at the bottom of the screen. So I do wish this still had those physical controls, but it is a better system overall, and I like that it's got this better touchscreen. Now, since we're on the subject of stuff I don't like, let's talk about this rotary gear selector that just kind of endlessly spins. There are no hard stops at park and drive. Just makes it a little more finicky. Again, you got to be a little more deliberate, especially if you're making quick maneuvers. I know that might sound strange, but I just still haven't gotten used to it, whether in this thing or the Bronco Sport. That to me stands out as troubling, because I rotate through so many different vehicles, and the fact that this one feels so flawed, well, that is problematic. And something else that's problematic, no standard heated seats. Even more than that, you can't even get them in the base XL trim. That is a huge red flag for me. It means not only do you have to step up to this XLT, but you have to add an optional package on top of that. So keep that in mind. For 37 grand or so before tax for the cheapest version of this truck, no heated seats, it means you got to spend about 41.5 grand to get them in this XLT. But even more than that, with all the stuff that I would add to spec it out the way I would want to own this thing, between the 4K tow package, that luxury package that has the heated seats, a spray-in bed liner, you're looking at about 47.5 grand before tax. And that really does cut into the value story. But I gotta say, I absolutely love how efficient this thing is. To recap, I like the Maverick Hybrid's amazing efficiency, the interesting interior, and how useful it is. I don't like that heated seats aren't standard, that there aren't any drive modes to pick between, and the fact the climate controls are touch-based now. Look, I'm not a huge fan of the idea of buying the biggest truck your money will get you, and I'd much rather see a bunch of people shell out for one of these than something like an F-150. Not only is the Maverick Hybrid that much more efficient, but it even has enough payload and towing capacities to feel practical. Plus, the space inside is pretty well used for a vehicle this size. Yes, I wish Ford didn't nickel and dime over stuff like heated seats, but I still say the Maverick Hybrid is one of the best vehicles out there, and the fact you can get it with all-wheel drive, well, that just means it's even better now than it was before.